Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's a new month, which means basically one thing that it's time to recap everything that I watched last month, April edition. So, without a further ado, let's just get into it. I kick things off with the Blair Witch Project, a film that basically defined the found footage horror genre in the late 90s and the early 2000s. And watching it now, I completely get why this was such a phenomenon back in the day. There's this eerie feeling that's so omnipresent throughout the whole film, and the way that the film builds this tension and uneasiness throughout its runtime is so masterfully done. But if I'm being very honest, watching it now, some 30 years on, you can definitely feel its age. There are still some genuinely terrifying moments, and the performances all feel very real. But compared to the kind of modern elevated horror that we get to see nowadays, it just doesn't hit as hard anymore. Still, I respect it for what it is, a solid one time watch. Then I watched Pizza Movie starring Gaten Matarazzo. This is basically one of those dying breed stoner comedies that basically became a genre of itself in the early 2000s. And if I'm being very honest, I had a very decent time with this one. While it's not as sharp as it pretends to be, and it's definitely not as grounded as it needs to be, but overall, it's still a great way to pass a lazy afternoon. It's pretty simple and straightforward, easy, and as I just said, it's perfect for a lazy day, but also completely forgettable the moment you're done with it. Fun while it lasts, and that's about it. Then I watched Just Go With It, starring Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston. This is as generic as it gets, a great addition to my collection of mindless Adam Sandler comedies. But despite being just the most by the numbers comedy, it's also weirdly comforting for some reason. And there's a surprise cameo from Nicole Kidman, which I did not see coming. These kind of mid budget comedies don't really get made anymore, and honestly, I kind of miss them. I don't know when we decided to move on from these silly movies, but I genuinely miss these. While as disposable and expendable as it might be, there's a strange affection I have for these films. I guess mostly because they remind me of a simpler time that we have lost to these streaming slop that we get nowadays. Then I saw one of my favorite watches of the year already, Project Hail Mary. Ryan Gosling is having the time of his life here, and it translates beautifully on screen. Him and Sandra Hüller share such an amazing chemistry with the little on screen time they have, and it kind of took me a while to get into the story, but I was not let down because while it takes a while to set up, but once it gets going, it genuinely becomes an unabashedly fun time. It's so wholesome and fun and just incredibly entertaining to watch. This is exactly the kind of movie that reminds you why going to the cinema is so much fun in the first place. After that, I watched Bad Boys 2. This, I have to admit, is just peak early 2000s chaos. So many random explosions, absolute zero logic, and all of it is just backed by pure Michael Bay energy. One just can't simply question it, you just have to turn your brain off and enjoy the ride. And if I'm being honest, that is exactly why this still works, because as much as it is a early 2000s product, there's a lot to enjoy here as long as you don't ask too many questions or try to think even a little. Then I also checked out Roommates, and this is the one that I have to admit genuinely surprised me. This is also a Netflix original that came out last month, and I kind of went in with absolutely no expectations, and I was genuinely surprised by downright just how much crazy this one got. It's so quirky and fun, and the third act really pulls everything together really nicely and does a solid favor to the overall product here. I really didn't expect much from this, but I have to say I ended up really enjoying it. Then I saw Identity Thief. This is a 2013 film starring Melissa McCarthy and Jason Bateman, both of whom, despite what the script allows them, are really putting some serious effort into this. But truth be told, this has not aged well at all. It's so messy and problematic and just downright ridiculous. It's kind of a dumb movie, but not in a good way. Like, if you completely switch your brain off, there's some fun to be had, but not anything more than that, though. Truly a product of its time, and I know I'm saying that about a film that's only a decade old, but even then, this feels like something that is definitely best left in the past. Next, I watched Tu Ya Main. This is a Hindi language survivalist drama starring Shania Kapoor and Adarsh Gaurav, both of whom do the heavy lifting here and make up for a script that's way too long and also way too thin. But I also have to admit, this one kind of surprised me in a good way. It's actually gripping and entertaining in parts, especially in the third act, but there's just no explanation for how long this goes on. Like, it did not need to be well over 2.5 hours. And the first half is such a drag, and midway, I was just hoping that they wrap this thing up so I can just switch it off. So while it's definitely fun, it's just stretched to its limit, and that really hinders the overall experience. Cut it down, I think, and it's a much better film. Then I watched Mean Girls, and I absolutely get the hype for this. This is such a little souvenir of the early 2000s, and I cannot believe I have not seen this before. This is peak early 2000s energy that almost all the movies made today lack severely. It is so cheesy, it's iconic, and it's so incredibly fun to watch, and honestly, way more alive than most of the modern streaming slop that is being fed to us these days. I absolutely had a blast with this one. Then I saw Apex. This is another Netflix original starring Charlize Theron and the ever dependable Taron Egerton. This is also another survivalist horror thriller about a lone woman hunted by a serial killer deep in the mountains of the Australian wilderness. While I went in with a lot of hope and optimism, this one just kind of frustrated me to no end. I think on paper it has so much potential, but the way that the story is told, it is so generic and formula driven and has Netflix fingerprints all over it. I think this one really had so much potential, and Taron Egerton is genuinely great in this, but the script is just so lackluster that even the actors can't do much to save it. It's a pretty by the numbers average quarterly Netflix churn out and nothing more. I also watched Quantum of Solace, Daniel Craig's second outing as James Bond, and honestly, this one is kind of instantly forgettable. Some really great action set pieces, especially for its time, and Daniel Craig is solid as ever, but the story just doesn't land at all. As I said in my Letterboxd review, it feels both overly edited and undercooked at the same time. It's so instantly forgettable, completely disposable, that I basically forgot I watched it the moment I turned it off. The third half is pretty solid for the film, but the overall product is simply too lazy for anyone to care. Easily one of the weaker Bond films that I've seen from Daniel Craig. Then I watched the new Hulk Hogan documentary, which dropped on Netflix a couple of weeks ago. And while it never divulges or discloses anything new that isn't already been reported and printed to death about the man himself, for anyone who doesn't know who Hulk Hogan was or the influence that he had as a wrestling superstar, this feels like a great introduction and a deep dive into the many trouble aspects of that man's life. If you already know a lot about Hulk Hogan, there's nothing new for you here, but for beginners, I think it's a decent enough introduction. Then I saw The Hunger Games Catching Fire. I cannot for the life of me believe I had not seen this before. I cannot believe it took me this long to finally watch this. This is genuinely one of the most beautiful pieces of filmmaking I have ever seen. Every aspect, from the performances to the way that it's edited and put together and the set pieces, everything works so well and fits so perfectly in this world. This is a miles better film than the first one, and I cannot wait to watch the other two as well. Jennifer Lawrence, I have to say, absolutely carries this film a star-making performance if there ever was one, and I had an absolute blast with this one. Then I saw Sister Act, the 1992 action comedy starring Whoopi Goldberg and Maggie Smith about a Vegas lounge singer turned a fake on-the-run nun in a San Francisco church. And what a surprise this turned out to be. I had very little hope and very little idea about the subject matter of this film and what it dealt with, but I'm so glad I went in with as little knowledge as possible, because this one surprised me in the best of ways. This is just a pure, unabashedly good old time, so incredibly funny and wholesome and so full of life. Kind of makes me sad that this is exactly the type of movies that the streaming algorithm just took from us. These carefree, shameless, foolish piece of absolute chaos. And what a travesty, because this is genuinely one of the sharpest comedies I've seen in such a long time. And on the TV side of things, I'm currently watching Euphoria season 3, and at the time of making this video, the season is halfway through, and I've already made a full video on my thoughts about the strange and bizarre tonal shift in the show's recent season. So go check it out if you haven't already for my detailed thoughts on the new season. And I'm also catching up on the final season of Hacks, which really stands out as honestly one of the best comedies out right now. It is so incredibly sharp and funny and genuinely well written. The last season is just as funny and heartwarming as the previous ones. If you haven't checked it out, do yourself a favor and go watch it immediately. And that basically concludes everything I watched this month. Honestly, I watched so many incredibly fun movies and TV shows, and I cannot wait to see what I watched this next month. Let me know down in the comments below, what did you watch this month, and should I make a full recommendations video next on the channel? And before you go, if you enjoyed the video so far, like, share and subscribe. Believe me, it goes a long way for the channel. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.